Hey everybody, Clint and Christina here to talk about something that happened yesterday, but yesterday was a little bananas, so we didn't have much time to talk about it, which is a good thing because more stuff happened today, and all of that stuff is Ghostbusters.
Who are you gonna call?
We're the Ghostbusters, because they're back. So what happened yesterday is that Paul Feig, director of Bridesmaids and The Heat, is officially bringing on a writer, Katie Dippold, to write Ghostbusters. His all-female Ghostbusters project has a writer.
Yes, the writer of The Heat.
The Heat.
The tweet said, starring some hilarious women or something along those lines.
he at least made a Ray Parker Jr. reference in the tweet. Who's he going to call? Like, who am I going to call? A bunch of funny ladies.
Which is yeah, something like that.
Those lines.
And people immediately started calling it a gimmick. And he...
Ghostbusters.
Ghostbustettes. People were calling it a gimmick, after which Paul Feig tweeted, hey, if you have a movie that's all guys, people just... It's business as usual. If it's all women, people are calling it a gimmick, which is a fair point. Yeah. Like, I think that the society as a whole needs to address that as an issue.
Well, you know, I can definitely see both sides of it, because on some level it feels a little gimmicky to say, like, oh, we're just going to put ladies in it. Whereas The Heat felt a little gimmicky because it was like, well, let's just make Tango and Cash except with chicks. The Bridesmaids, on the other hand, that felt more organic. That was a movie about women.
Yeah, and it was a movie about women's experiences, getting married. The Hangover, it wasn't The Hangover with chicks.
Sure. I understand the knee-jerk reaction to say, well, this is super gimmicky, let's just put chicks in it. But on the other side of the coin, I can understand putting women in it, because if you do another all just, white dude comedian cast for Ghostbusters, you're really living in the shadow of the original one.
I still feel like this is a gimmick. And here's the breakdown. Last week in the roundtable, we were talking about a lot of 80s movies. Mm-hmm. We were talking Bill and Ted. We were talking about what 80s movies would make TV shows, and we came up with some zany premises for what would make good 80s TV shows based on 80s movies.
I thought they all made perfect sense, but go ahead.
After that roundtable, I was thinking a lot about 80s movies and which ones I'm most nostalgic for, and I don't know if I'm as passionate about a lot of 80s movies as a lot of guys in my life are. And I think that's because a lot of 80s comedies are sort of guy humor. Not dude humor, not like alienating or insulting to women humor, but Fletch's issues with his ex-wife. It's about Chevy Chase trying to take his kids on a great vacation. Right. Really, I just want to have a nice vacation. It's sort of humor that grows out of the male perspective. Right. And Ghostbusters is of that era. Its humor is maybe a little bit less so, but it is of that era. And I do feel like gender swapping the entire cast is something that you would do as like an internet video or a parody video, and not necessarily as the official reboot of the official franchise.
End of the day, if it's all females in the cast, all males in the cast, or if it's mixed, like, I just need it to be a good movie. It needs to be good and it needs to make sense. Bridesmaids was a really good movie. The Heat was not. So, it's kind of a mixed bag with Paul Feig. I'm not a big fan of his. I'm not enormously confident in him bringing Ghostbusters to life in the right way. The other thing that happened today is that Paul Feig talked about how it's a complete reboot. He's making this movie as though the first two Ghostbuster films never happened. So it's a complete Ghostbusters origin story.
Yeah, rebooting it rather than 25 years later sequeling it, that definitely makes sense to me, because you'd have a hard time sort of figuring out what the world with 25 years worth of ghosts would look like. At the same time, I do feel like rebooting it entirely with an all-female cast almost feels like more of a gimmick.
More of a gimmick? See, it kind of feels like less of a gimmick to me doing it that way.
Because it really does feel like this thing happened and these women are gonna go do it. And it's so weird for me to say that like I can't see an all-female cast movie. But at the same time, I feel like if ghosts existed, there would be at least a couple of dudes who'd get in. And there'd also be a couple of ladies.
Because the other thing, though, is if this was Ghostbusters 3 with an all-female cast, like, what is it, like the daughters of the Ghostbusters, and they're, like, taking over for their dads or something like that, that would feel more
the niece and her sorority friends.
They're kind of like shoehorning the women into these roles, whereas this way, I mean, it could literally be the exact same story, just with women instead of men. The scientists stumble onto this thing and they decide that they can bust ghosts, so then they start going to business for themselves busting ghosts. That being said, that's the danger of this. If this is an exact remake and it's just women instead of men, that's going to piss me off. So you need those archetypes for a certain extent, but you know, whether or not you need Venkman, Spengler, Stantz, and Zedmore is another story altogether.
Well, and it would be really weird if it was a complete translation, because that would definitively be a gimmick.
Exactly. If they just redid it, the same deal, just with women this time. So hopefully there's a different type of origin story. He brings something different that's more relevant to our audience now, and it's not just some weird gimmicky cat grab.
Now, the next question, of course, is like, if this is happening, if this is going to be an all women Ghostbusters reboot, who is the cast going to be? I feel like Melissa McCarthy is kind of like a shoo-in at this point, as is Kristen Wiig.
Right, both of them are Paul Feig, like veterans at this point.
Pretty much. Some other names have gotten tossed around. Of course, there were Bill Murray's picks of
Linda Cardellini and Emma Stone. I mean, honestly, just if it ends up being the cast of Bridesmaids, you know, Rose Byrne is there, and you know, Wendy McClendon-Covey is there too. Like, I mean, it could be.
I feel like
who knows? I mean, there's a lot of really funny women out there. There's a lot of really funny men out there. I just need a really funny movie to come out of whatever combination of cast you're making. So let us know what you think about Ghostbusters. They doing it right, or are they just doing it just to do it?
What's your best, worst, and moderate case scenario?
Yes, and who do you want to see as a female Ghostbuster? Let us know in the comments down below. Click like and subscribe. Come back next time for more movie news on CineFix Now. Get some Cosby going in there.
Ghost Dad.
You see,
Patrick.
I ain't afraid of no ghosts, Theo.
I'm gonna be really curious to see which clip of this you're
clearly
using.
gonna use the Cosby voice.